everyone, it's me. Good morning. I hope you're well. Today's video we're going to talk more about the elementals and how it relates to UFOs, extraterrestrials, and aliens. Now, if you watched the live stream, and it is long, I'm going to try to make shorter videos to explain what I was talking about in that deep dive. I did that kind of live and random, and I gave all the information out that I could think of and my thoughts and stuff like that at the time. I realized something last night. I was actually looking into the death of Max Spiers. I just wanted to know more details around his passing. He was 39 when he died. And again, I can't help but see similarities between me and some of these people. Now, I'm not saying that we're the same in the ways that you think, because of course this is a very personal reflection for me, but I read something that, and I looked up the definition of the word, and I realized that it has two different meanings. But it gave me a feeling, because this fella had also said that right before he died, Max Spiers was going to come out with information about something called the fifth pillar. Now, of course, I probably should have, because I didn't really research into Max Spiers. I remember watching him on Carrie Cassidy years and years and years ago. Like, I got into this, I think, about 2010. So, and I do remember vaguely, okay? The point of it is that this is what it says. I really hope that this doesn't screw up my video. Oh, it didn't. It says, Max Spiers, hold on. Max Spiers dead. Conspiracy theorist was terminated by sophisticated elements. So I read the article, and as I'm scrolling down, Miles Johnson, I remember him from Project Camelot with Carrie Cassidy. He says, Johnson added, Spiers was taken by very sophisticated elements, then terminated and brought back to be demonstrated as a weapon system. Holy shit. I've always known in some way I was a weapon, but I didn't know how. There's just, hang on, let me see if I can find that wording. Sorry. All right, well, I'll post the article so you can read it. But I found it really peculiar. Just the stuff, some of the stuff that he says about enemies in other realities. This is dimensional. I'm also going to talk to you about why UFOs are seen in volcanoes, under the ocean. What was the other one? I wrote it down. Mountains. On the top of mountains. There's a reason. All the elementals have their different elements. Well, the mountain ones are the sky ones, which would be the sylphs, which are like fairies and stuff. Elves. Hold on. Well, the fifth, let me just start with this. The fifth pillar reminded me of the fifth dimension, okay? Everyone was always on about 5D, 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 and saying it was unconditional love, but it's not. Now listen to this. Under elementals, there are nymphs, which are mermaids, undines, which is the element of water, sylphs, which are sylvestris, like a wild man, which are air, and they live in the mountains, high up, air. Pygmies or gnomes are small beings. I have examples in Elena Danaan's book of all of these, which I went over in the deep dive. Then the salamanders, which are reptilians, but they're also known as Vulcans, which come from Star Trek. Okay, these are beings of fire. The Vulcans actually do, their personality and just the way they are, very scientific, non-emotional, are kind of, well, they've actually suppressed their emotions. They're actually extremely emotional, and they've done that over however long. You know the story of Star Trek. If you do, then that's what the Vulcans did. They are suppressing their emotions because they're very fiery in nature. And this is why. Because it all reflects through these elementals. This has gone back since the times of ancient Egypt, ancient Greece, ancient Rome, places like this, okay? And it's always been a part of Eastern culture. In Chinese history, or I forget how they relay this, it's called the Four Corners. So it relates to north, south, east, and west, which it does explain this in the chapter from the Secret Teachings, which I initially started reading from, okay? And I posted the article. I was thinking about reading it all over again. It just takes quite a while. But it's called The Elements and Their Inhabitants, page 279 of the Secret Teachings of All Ages, okay? Now, this goes in to explaining that there's different beings in their different elements. Now, if you watch the video that I made about the fifth element with Lilu, it shows the spiritual essence of each of these elements. It's almost like the actual, how we breathe oxygen, this is the thing that they breathe. And it says this in Secret Teachings. I don't want to lose people because they don't watch these videos. People aren't watching the videos, they aren't watching it all the way through, and they're not doing any research. And this is a huge problem. This is how we ended up here. Because people are taking people's word and just listening to them instead of doing the research for themselves. This is bad. Hang on, I have to friggin' find that one part and then about the Rosicrucians, okay? Because this has to do with the Kabbalah and Cabal, like the Dark Fleet Cabal. It's only spelled with a C. Kabbalah is spelled K-A-B-B-A-L-A. The Cabal is a play on words. That just means the Kabbalah. And the way that they're hiding the mysteries, this is part of it. There aren't any aliens like we think. Sylphs are the closest to humans. Where are ya? No, that's not one. Where's the next page? This is Sylph. Blonde, beautiful, fairy-like people. Mountainous people. People that live in the mountains. That's why the UFOs go into the mountains, right? Sylph, air. There's this article that I'm reading is from Wikipedia. It breaks it down. I know that you can't really trust the sources on here, but it does break it down quite well. What I'm looking for, Paracelsus was part of these, okay? I think he was either Kabbalah or the Rosicrucians, but Secret Society for sure. Paracelsus conceived human beings to be comprised of three parts: an elemental soul. This is why I remember having powers like Avatar: The Last Airbender. You'll be able to use those elements there. There's more to it. there might be a crossover point with the spiritual realms and the material plane. It may cross over, and I've said this before. It may. Like almost like when the tide goes in, but this is a long period of time. Then the tide comes, or the tide goes out, it comes back in. Yes? Something like this, a crossover. Like almost like the moon passing in front of the sun, and then it will go back out. Yes? A crossover. But listen to this. An elemental body, a sidereal spirit, which is like my Asura, and an immortal divine soul, which is the golden dragon version, or your higher dimensional self, or your Deva, okay, the Asura and Deva. Now, elementals lacked this last part, a immortal divine soul. They don't have a soul. There are reflections in some of the religious teachings, but we have to remember that that was also manipulated. This is crazy how when Manly P. Hall said the way in which they hide the mysteries is highly unusual, he wasn't lying, because listen, elementals lack this last part, the immortal soul. However, by marriage with a human being, the elemental and its offspring could gain a soul. What does that sound like but the 200 fallen angels that came down to take wives before? Listen. The fifth dimension. This is a plane of existence populated by intelligent entities that have never existed in the third realm. Third dimension, because they're the elementals. They're other creations of the Creator. They're guardian spirits of the trees, the forests, the rivers, and the land, and the sky. We forgot about this stuff. This goes back to indigenous cultures, tribals, all of that, long, long ago. But we forgot. Being closely associated with the third dimension, entities in the fifth spiritual dimension can interact with us easily, influence our thought patterns, circumstances, or the elements. In religious texts, these entities are referred to as demons or fallen angels. Look, my peoples, look. Fifth pillar, demons. Fifth pillar, fifth dimension, 5D. 5D is not unconditional love. That's a lie. Now, the part about the Rosicrucians. Sylphs are the closest to humans in his conception because they move through the air like we do, in the sky. UFOs. While in fire, they burn, in water, they drown, and in earth, they get stuck. Maybe that's why there are some UFOs buried in the earth and shit. Maybe they got stuck halfway in dimensionally. Stay with me. Paracelsus states that each one stays healthy in its particular chaos. That's why this thing, chaos, is keep coming up. It's not only representation of the darker forces of the universe or this entity that is put on this. I don't know how to explain it, but I see chaos. It's both in the dark planet of the fifth element. It's in Sailor Moon, where she fights chaos at the end. In Sailor Moon Cosmos. There's so many, okay? That's where the chaos thing. And in terms, but dies. So when they die, they're gone. They don't come back. They're not reincarnated. They don't have a soul. They don't do it like this. They turn back into the element from which they came. Now, let me see. Okay, I have to go down further. Comparison with Buddhism. The four heavenly kings rule over eastern, southern, western, and northern cardinal directions, which are inhabited by Gandharvas. They all have different names. Nagas. This is where Nagas come from. Nagas. That's Buddhist. But those are the salamanders, the reptilians, or the lizard peoples. They're reflected differently. This is from Asia. Nagas and yakshas, which you will see this kind of with Hinduism and their beliefs over these other dimensional beings, of celestial beings and stuff like that. I've posted all these links before about Hinduism, but we're going deeper into it now. These spiritual beings are reminiscent of the elementals found in this tradition. Where I got it from here. Elements and their inhabitants. Different Buddhist traditions in Asia, including those in Tibet and China, are different, like with the cardinal directions, but it's still 4, like the 4th dimension, spirit realm. 4 directions. They have different governs about the earth. Now, but we're still dealing with, when I told you, upper realms, people who came before us, the ones now in the middle earth, okay, middle earth. So up here we would have higher dimensions and outer space aliens and shit. And then we have the middle dimension, middle earth, where we are now. And then the hell, or the lower realms, or inner earth, that's where this comes from. Subternia. But it is just the lower dimensions. Now, I don't have, unfortunately, I might be able to bring something up if I happen to edit this. But if there's a picture, it represents the higher, the middle, and the lower realms. I know exactly which picture I'm going to use because I use that one all the time. So that's what this is. And different beings live in different spaces, okay? Now, I gotta find the place about, okay, yeah, it's right here. Here it is, right here. The Rosicrucians claim to be able to see such elemental spirits. To be admitted to their society, it was previously necessary for the eyes to be purged with the panacea, or universal medicine, a legendary alchemical substance with miraculous curative curing powers, as well as glass globes, would be prepared with one of the 4 elements for 1 month exposed to beams of sunlight. So water in the sun for a month, sand in the sun for a month, air in the sun for a month, whatever. With these steps, the initiates of the flame, this is what it all has to do with this secret society stuff, Kabbalah, play on words. With these steps, the initiated would see innumerable beings immediately. Is this why you saw so many, hun? These beings, known as elementals, were said to be longer lived than man, but cease to exist upon death. They don't have a mortal soul. However, if the elemental were to wed a mortal, marriage to a mortal, they would become immortal. They want to live. Just like we can't accept this is our way of living, they probably can't either, and they don't want to die and disappear. This exception seemed to work in reverse when it came to immortals, though, for if an elemental were to wed an immortal being, the immortal would gain the mortality of the elemental. One of the conditions of joining the Rosicrucians was a vow of chastity in hopes of marrying an elemental. There's a reason why there are absolutely no female-looking reptilians in this book. Male nymphs, the term used for the undine, mermaids. That's why we always hear mermaids drawing us into the water. Mermen are probably really good looking too. Are said to be rare. So you'll always see female mermaids. That's why. Are said to be rare, while female salamanders, lizards, reptilians are rarely seen. That's why they're all male looking in here. Elena Danaan used to be friends with, I believe, the curator in Egypt, that fella who was actively working to keep the secrets hidden for a long time, and they still fucking are. Ancient aliens about aliens. It ain't no aliens, it's elementals. They're not spirits. I thought they were, but it's not. Hold on, let me find the exact part. I found it. Yet, he adds, the elementals are not spirits because they have flesh, blood, and bones. They live and propagate offspring. They eat and talk, act and sleep, and consequently, they cannot be properly called spirits. This also reminds me of, in Islam, they call them jinn. They say the exact same thing about that. It's just another word for spiritual beings or elementals. These beings are occupying a place between men and spirits. We're going to get there about the mountains and the volcanoes. In between men and spirits, resembling men and spirits, resembling men and women in their organizations, like females and males, and form, and resembling spirits in the rapidity of their locomotion. Later, the same author calls these creatures composita, inasmuch as the substance out of which they are composed seems to be a combination of spirit and matter, physical and non-physical matter, like I was showing you in that video with NSYNC. How they look there, but they look like fucking ghosts. That's what it's trying to express. I have to use shows and videos to visually express to you what I'm trying to talk about. You know, it's a shame. Well, it's just because people aren't doing the work. Okay. They are spirit and matter. He uses color to explain the idea, like the color spectrum. Like that. He uses color to explain the idea. Thus, the mixture of blue and red gives purple. A new color resembling neither of the other colors, yet composed of both. So there's spirit and matter, they're red and blue, which comes purple. Holy crap. Such is the case with nature spirits. They resemble neither spiritual creatures nor material beings, yet are composed of a substance which we may call spiritual matter or ether. It also has another term. Whereas man is composed of several natures, spirit, soul, mind, and body, combined in one unit, the elemental has but one principle, the ether out of which it is composed and in which it lives, so whether it's water, earth, air, or fire. The reader must remember that by ether is meant the spiritual essence of one of the four elements, again, with the Fifth Element movie and the stones with the spiritual essence coming out of them. There are many ethers as there are elements, and many distinct families of nature spirits. That's why they say jinn are all in different families and stuff like that with Islam. Remember, jinn isn't a term for a demon. They call the jinn all the unseen spirits. Angels are angels because they're higher dimensionals, but the rest of them, they call jinn, okay? Okay, nature spirits cannot be destroyed by the grosser elements, such as material fire, earth, air, or water. It's the spiritual essence. That's why you got to fight them in the spirit realm. That's why I was using my powers for. But they function in a rate of vibration higher than that of earthly substances. I have, to the philosophy of nature spirits is generally attributed to an Eastern origin, because they've always held the spiritual teachings. Always. It used to be all about the East. The West is relatively new. We are babies in this. They're older. There are older siblings. Probably Brahmanic, and Paracelsus secured his knowledge of them from Oriental sages with whom he came in contact during his lifetime of philosophical wanderings. The Egyptians and Greeks gleaned their information from the same source, the East. The four main divisions of nature spirits must now be considered separately according to the teachings of all these people, okay? Because there's a lot of people that talk about them. There's a lot of areas, and people will have their different perspectives. Like, clearly Elena Danaan does not like fire beings or reptilians. So I'm going to give you examples in her book, and then I'm going to talk about, this is called Eldaru, like elf. I may not be able to guess all of their elements, but let me see. Tall, blonde, clear blue eyes. Sound like under equivalent help by blah 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 blah. I don't know. Anyway, I don't think it matters. I won't be able to do it all, but Eldaru sounds like elf. So, you know, and it kind of does, like, think Lord of the Rings. So we have that, and then we have what I showed you about the sylphs or mermaid type of people, but that might be, again, air. I really believe that Thorhan would be either a merman, or fishmen are always horny for women, by the way. You notice that the fishman, like the monster in the Blue Lagoon, the fishman always coming to get a lady. It's probably something to do with that. Let me see here. Now, where is the reptilian fella? Okay, over here. Now, of course, that is an obvious one. You know what I mean? And you see these in a lot of those Chinese movies, too. They're represented like this, too. These lower dimensional type of fire entities or whatever. Let's see. Again, we have, and it describes there about them being in robes in the fire. It describes them being tall and slender, like that's why they always have this, the salamanders. Okay, we'll read the part about the salamanders specifically. The salamanders. The third group of elementals is the salamanders, spirits of fire, who live in the attenuated spiritual ether, which is invisible fire element of nature. So again, fifth element, firestone. Corbin, I ain't got no matches. Without them, material fire cannot exist. A match cannot be struck. Nor will flint and steel give off their spark without the assistance of the salamanders, who immediately appear, so the medieval mystics believe, invoked by friction. Yeah. Or maybe the flicking of a lighter. Shit. Man is unable to communicate successfully with the salamanders, owing to the fiery element in which they dwell, for everything is resolved to ashes that comes into their presence. But specifically prepared compounds or herbs, perfumes, like frankincense or myrrh. When incense, specially prepared compounds of herbs and perfumes, the philosophers of the ancient world manufactured many kinds of incense. When incense was burned, the vapors which arose were especially suitable as a medium for the expression of these elementals of fire, who, by borrowing the ethereal effluvium from the essence of smoke, were able to make their presence felt. The salamanders are varied in their grouping and arrangement, the salamanders are varied in their grouping and arrangement as either the undines or the gnomes. There are many families of them, differing in appearance, size, and dignity. Well, I'll show you more pictures of them after this. Salamanders have been seen in the shapes of fiery balls. This is why you'll see them like orbs going over fields and stuff. They might be the ones leaving the crop circles and shit like that too as messages communicating with us. Fiery balls or small balls of light. Salamanders have been seen in the shapes of fiery balls or tongues of fire, running over fields or peering into houses, like some extraterrestrials do. Aliens, oh, looking in the windows. No, they ain't. These are spirits. Well, elementals, right? Because they're not spirits, as we already said. I gotta fix that in here. Right. Medieval investigators of the nature spirits were of the opinion that the most common form of salamander was lizard-like in shape, a foot or more in length, and visible as a glowing iridula, twisting and crawling in the midst of a fire. Another group was described as having flaming giants in flowing robes, protected with sheets of fiery armor. Jesus Murphy. Where are you, fella? Armor. Look at that. There's his fiery armor with the lizard man. It's a play on words. It's just symbolic representation. That's armor there. You'll see another one. Where are ya? Well, we saw the ones with the robes. The other one with the armor, the shape-shifting one, with the man standing next to him. Crap. But anyway, I showed you the armor. Now, I have a picture that I'm going to show you right here. These cat people, I have a picture. I've seen this in one of my Chinese movies that I was watching. I'll put the picture up now. These are the cat people represented there, but these are most definitely in the spiritual realm in the Chinese films, okay? That's the spirit realm with the Monkey King and stuff like that. We have that. Where was that fairy girl? Wait. What was that one? Where's that fairy girl? Well, that's an elemental for sure. It looks like a water spirit. Look at it. See the water going around it? Water spirit. Look at this one. You can't tell me that's not an elemental. Look at it. It has like lightning sparks or whatever going on. Looks veins like it has in a leaf. Here's a gnome with the hat-like head. What is this called? Cone head. They're known for having cone heads. Gnome. Myth of Jinn. Yeah, okay. Anyway, this is a ground being, also known as a gnome. Or maybe I'll put a fucking garden gnome right here. Everybody knows what a garden gnome looks like. Well, that's where that comes from, because they have these kind of cone-shaped heads, and they kind of look like grumpy old men. It says that in the gnomes, or the dwarves are kind of the same thing, kind of like grumpy old fellas. Where is the obvious fairy girl? It's so obvious. She's a tree fairy, a sprite, a hold on now. The bird people would be people of the air. They would, take care of different things in nature that way. Where is the fairy girl? I marked pages on purpose, and now I can't find them. Oh! No, that one doesn't. No, that's not it. Shit. Ah, there she is. You can't tell me that is not a fairy. Look at her little ears. She's a little fairy person, like Thumbelina. Look at the feathers. That is a forest creature, a forest elemental. Look at her. She's on a branch, for God's sake. It's a tree spirit, like. So anyway, this is clearly something from the water. So like I was saying, this is why we see these UFOs going into mountains, going into volcanoes, going under the ocean, okay? There's this thing that I'm aware of, that we may be occupying the same space, but dimensionally it's different. So if we went into the volcano, we wouldn't see much. We would just be experiencing the gases, the heat, all of that, like we do when we go look inside volcanoes. But in almost another space of it, a space between spaces, as it says, between spirit and matter. And you see this sometimes reflected in movies, where you'll walk in somewhere and the space kind of shifts, and they're like, holy shit, like Santa's village or some shit. You know what I mean? Where you'll walk in, it's an empty building, and then someone goes, and it turns into something magical. This is the space between spaces. So when they go in, they may be experiencing something totally different than what we see with our eyes and our senses that are for this realm. Okay? Same thing with underwater. These are expressed again, like if you watch the show Ice Fantasy, it has an underwater kingdom. Even in the Monkey King, there are water people. That's why you'll hear stories of, I think it's Lake Baikal, where these beings were ran into by Russian whoever. I forget who it was, but they had an encounter with extraterrestrials. They're not. They're these spirits, or elemental nature beings. It's something out of it's in the unseen realm, which is what in Islam they call it, the unseen realm, because we can't see it, we can't perceive it in the light spectrum of our vision. Okay? And that's why it has to do with that being the light spectrum as well, and these colors that reflect like through a prism, right? So, the same thing. We may not see what's inside the mountain. We may go in there, it's just tunnels and stuff, but for them, it's a different space. So sometimes when you hear people being whisked away into another world, well, you're actually going into the space between spaces. Sometimes they can bring people there. You'll hear about fairy rings, where they try to trap you to bring you into their world. This is that. Yeah. Now, with Max Spears, I remember he was talking about out-of-body experience. This is his spirit body, his elemental body, like we've all had. I've tried to tell people that most of these alien abductions doesn't happen in your real body. Elena Danaan expresses that here in the beginning of her story. Okay? It's more complicated probably than I realized, because maybe it's that these beings have taken her into their world and realm. Where is this when he first comes to get her? next page. Here. You can see this here, where she's glowing and he's glowing. Listen. And all was so silent. It was a weird silence, yes, because you don't have your auditory and senses anymore. Your ears don't work. That's why it's telepathic. You ain't got a voice box no more, or a mouth, or a tongue. As if I had cotton in my ears, the vision ahead of me struck me with astonishment but no fear. A metallic, discoidal disc spaceship was there. A tall man dressed in white clothing. The celestial kingdom, they were white. Anyway. So that's, let me see something if it says, I couldn't feel any air coming into my lungs, although I was breathing. Yes, you cannot tell that you're still breathing, but you're breathing now the spiritual essence, not actual air in your elemental spiritual body. Although I was breathing and I could feel my long hair was brushed by a gentle breeze. Well, yeah, because it's the etheric air, the spiritual air. You'll be able to fly like they're doing. All kinds of cool stuff, right? This is probably how I remember using the Aether before in shape-shifting and stuff, okay? I'm seriously questioning some of the things that I recall now, especially with the superpower stuff, with the Avatar Last Airbender, Earth, Air, Fire, Water powers, which I've always had. It did come in the form of lightning when I first remembered it, but I know I have all the elements. That's why I like Avatar so much, and Ong and Kyoshi and all of them, you know? Because I can do the same thing. That's why in my experience the other night, I wanted them to show me what they could do. And I'm like, hit me! And they hit me with wind right out the damn door. And everyone probably laughed hysterically after, because it was funny. I was so excited to be hit. Yeah! So, but then I got hurt afterwards. But that's okay. I recovered. I'm fine now. You know. And, well, let's just leave it at that. But, there you go. Now, again, this is why Claudio Nocelli's work is so different, because he's taken it more in a different way, but it's still the same expression of things. It's too bad I didn't have the book where he shows the horny fish man, but I've used that already. He's expressed that in my video where I show you that he's the fish man, horny for women. Yeah, I mean, he didn't show that part. It's just a fish man on the beach, but that's what it comes from. Yeah. And it's strange, you know, because, listen, I'm a little low-key jealous, okay? But, listen to this. Where is it? Ew. About, oh, that's totally valid. A phrase that seems to come from someone intelligent. Ooh. Oh. I mean, listen, why he would need to put that in there? This is a being that comes from within him. If you listen to Corey Good's explanation, he lays it right out for everybody. That's what they're doing. Part of meditative practices, spirit body stuff. Corey Good's never been to outer space. Part of his meditative practices. The blue avians are part of his avatar. It's something that he uses to go through these spiritual realms, like in his elemental sidereal spirit body. These people know about this stuff. They're all highly spiritual. They're probably the same as me in this way, initiates in this way. I didn't mean to come into this. I fell into it because I was trying to figure out what everybody else was doing. I didn't understand why I had these similarities, but there was very different life choices and stuff that we were doing, right? In 1670, French satire of occult philosophy, Comte de Gablis, was prominent in popularizing Paracelsus' theory of elementals. It particularly took on the idea of elemental marriage discussed by Paracelsus, whatever. In the book, Count of Kabbalah explains that members of his order refrain from marriage to human beings in order to retain their freedom to bestow souls upon elementals. Use the term sylphide and nomide to refer to female sylphs and gnomes. Male nymphs are said to be rare. Well, that's male mermaids. Well, female salamanders are rarely ever seen. There's something about this with Helen Morris, that Val Neck, whoever that fucker is, and Thorhan, okay? There's something weird. I've always felt something off. I've said that 2 years ago when I had no idea about this. And I made my original videos about them. There's something weird with it. You'll even see Megan Rose holding hands with Val Neck. Girl, I warned you guys about all this. I never wanted a relationship. I wanted a relationship with a real man, a human man here in this realm, and I've never, ever insinuated anything different, okay? That's crazy that this is going on. But there's not a lot of people who are going to be able to figure it out because they won't do the work. They won't do it. This was just Claudio Nocelli's interpretation of these different realms. That's it. It's creative, but it's not true. Just like I was showing with the ice wall stuff and these Chinese Monkey King and stuff, okay? In, I believe it's the Yin Yang Master, there's literally an ice wall that separates the spiritual world from the physical realm. And they're actually trying to keep this serpent thing from getting through. And they're all using their powers to keep it from getting through, the serpent. But that's also wisdom and knowledge, right? Yeah. So I think I'm finished. I think I've finished. Have I? So we did like mountains. That's why they're going into mountains. That's why they're underground. Because again, with the three realms, it would be the sky and under the ground, but also the ocean, inner earth, but also the ocean, subternia, submerged in water, submarine, subternia. I know this is a cartoon, but it's used as a visual expression to help me get my point across, to educate. So there. These beings, known as elementals, were said to live longer. That's why they have in this book, where are you? In this book that they're much older and stuff like that. It's a clever creation, but it's still these elementals. And I don't know, like, it's weird because I thought that she didn't have a husband or a boyfriend or whatever. But it says in here, and I don't know how she means it, my partner, Luke, for putting up with her writer's isolation. Where is it? Well, anyway, it's here. Stephanie, Anne, Rachel. Where is it? Are you serious? And also my partner Luke for his loving presence at bravely enduring my writer's isolation. My loving partner sounds like a boyfriend. So why during live streams was she making it seem that Thorhan was flirting with her, telling her how good she looks and how beautiful and young she is? I've seen her do this, and then she's giggling. Oh, Thorhan thinks I look young. I'm not fucking kidding with you. This is how this got me where I am today, because I'm like, how professional is that? Why would you interrupt an ambassador speaking to tell her how good looking she is? That's so unprofessional. You know what I mean? Like, it's just really bizarre shit. It's bizarre. And especially what happened with Megan Rose and Elena Danaan. They were friends, and it was helping her narrative with this Galactic Federation stuff, right? But then as soon as Megan Rose started to change her tune a little bit and go out of the parameters, sexy merman, or an elf like Legolas from Lord of the Rings, she threw her under the bus, destroyed her, said that Valnek was gay, went to another galaxy, that's not her contact, who she's talking to isn't Valnek. But why wouldn't she know that in the beginning, right? Why wouldn't they say, whoa, don't connect with her, that's not Valnek, blah, 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 blah. You know, because this is a character that Elena Danaan created. Valnek is made up. It's not real. But now it seems that Megan Rose, still to this day, is using it as an avatar, like, oh, I speak for these extraterrestrials. But she was all on about Donald Trump and Q and all kinds of stuff, you know what I mean? Which was just totally bizarre. And that's what I'm saying. These beings will often just use you to have fun. And whatever they can, whatever energy they're trying to get out of it or whatever. Where was it said that a lot of these beings are using us and working through us? Entities in the fifth spiritual dimension can interact with us easily, influence our thought patterns, circumstances, or the elements. In religious texts, these entities are referred to as demons or fallen angels. A fallen angel is just something, say it comes from level 6 and goes to level 3. That is falling, descending. So she put it all over her website. She tried to destroy this girl purposely, trying to get people to not talk to her. She did a hate, like a destruction campaign against her after that to make sure she shut that down so it wouldn't interrupt with her narrative, Elena's. This woman knows that fella who hid all them secrets from Egypt, telling people it's goddamn aliens now and ancient aliens. I think he might be dead. I don't even know his name. He was this Egyptian fella. There's a picture of her and him together. Just because she's an archaeologist doesn't mean shit. Doesn't mean shit. She's also a druid, shaman type of person, which deals with elementals, nature spirits. Yeah, druid is an elemental nature spirit person. Magic or whatever. Druid magic. Guys, there's something wrong here. It's not aliens like they're saying it is. It's not. And I'm just praying to God. Whoops, I used the Yahuwah, whatever, divine creator. It didn't matter what fucking name I used. I always knew the frequency and the signal to get there. It didn't matter. But the point of me making that video was to show you just how much they've changed, switched around, play on words, to manipulate, control, and divide and get done whatever they're trying to do. The ancient aliens thing is wrong. This is the spirit realm. I've just read it to you about ancient Egypt, Rome, and that all comes from the East. But, like I was saying, there is these crossover points. It's never happened to me yet, but I know that there's evidence of it. Like I said, fairy rings, all this kind of stuff, people getting transported to other realms. But the way that it's being presented to us with deception, I can't agree with. And I always hear that in my head. There is good out there, and we oppose deception. Yeah. So I don't know. It's peculiar. You know, does Claudio Nocelli wish to marry the elemental of Helen Morris and give her an immortal soul? I mean, you've definitely immortalized her in these books with Helen Morris. How do you even know who that is, really? They can shapeshift. I don't know. I guess I have to leave it for people to decide for themselves. You've got to do the work. You've got to do the research. This is how we got taken advantage of. Just blindly believing lies. Or whatever their interpretation of this information is. And this is how David Wilcock keeps manipulating people too. I mean, he's not the smartest fellow, I'll tell you that. But like he thinks he is. He's not smart in the ways that, we would hope he would be. Because he thinks that he's talking to the Archangel Michael. And again, that's one of these fuckers that we talked about, these fifth dimensional beings. I had no idea, really. I channeled a lot of this in this book. When I was talking about the divine breathes out and I breathe in, I didn't even know what that really meant. But then I saw that video, and even the breath is Yahuwah, Yahuwah. You can hear it. It's absolutely incredible. So, and I'm not even going to tell you what the rest of it means because there are certain things that I have to keep secret so that people don't copy me and try to pretend to be me and try to steal whatever this is away. You know what I mean? I'm not going to be a deception person. I'm not going to lie to people. I'm not going to make up no creation. I don't care. I'm not playing this game with you. None of you. I don't care which side you're on. I don't care what kind of secret society you're in. I don't give a fuck no more. I'm not playing. So, with that being said, I will leave the link below. You can read the chapter about the salamanders and stuff like that from in here. I hope you've enjoyed this. I have a little bit more, but I'm going to save that for another time because it has to do with the Dark Fleet in connection with a Star Wars series I found from 1997 called The Black Fleet. Okay? And its connection to it from that. It was written, it's like the Star Wars universe is quite big. This is an independent writer that was adding to the series, but it's called The Black Fleet, and it's called Tyrant's Test, this one thing that I landed on. So I kind of have a feeling that might be connected to that. You got to remember, 1996 and 1997 was a time when this book came out. This was a very popular topic around this time. Alex Collier recommended me this book. Alex Collier is linked to Elena Danaan. That's why they're together giving us the middle finger. Yeah. That's why she's in blue, represents the spirit. Remember? Red, blue, purple. To become something new. Red, blue, purple. I'm not doing the fucking sign. Here, look. Red, blue, purple. Because it's different stages. So you have red, then you have blue, then you become purple. That's that number again. 3. 3, 3, 3 everywhere. That's why. Yeah. So I have not been feeling well since April 6th. And it has not improved. It's 11:22 a.m. on May 27th, 2025. And I have done my absolute best with this. And I'm just hoping that it finally does some good. Because this was not the way. And I just don't agree. We oppose deception. Take care, everybody. Enjoy your day. Thank you so much for listening and being here with me. I'm doing the best I can. But this is why I'm saying it doesn't benefit people, and it's not because I'm weak. I'm extremely smart, and I have a strong heart. It's just that this has all been very stressful. I can't tell you how many times I've bawled my eyes out. I was traumatized by what happened with Megan Rose and Elena Danaan. I've never forgotten it. And also now with the thing about Corey Good, his deposition. So, but that explains exactly what everybody's doing. This is their intellectual property. This is why I guarantee you I'll do it. I will do it to fucking prove it to you. If I started writing about the ice wall and be like, oh yeah, I know Helen Morris. Yeah, Claudio just hasn't heard of me yet, but I know Helen Morris. Me and her go way back. Oh yeah, I've been to the Ancestral Republic, and I know the Iron Blues. And yeah, totally. Like, if I did this, Claudio Nocelli would sue the shit out of me, especially if I wrote a book on it. It's the same thing. You want me to fucking do it? I ain't got no money. That boy can try to sue me. I'm doing it to catch his ass. Do you want me to? Because seriously, I'm starting to get upset. I should go. But that's what it was. He was protecting his intellectual property. That's what IP means, intellectual property. Because you created it. You wrote it. This is your interpretation of things. And that's why. So, there's probably a reason why Elena Danaan hasn't sued Megan Rose. I don't know what's in her books, but that would be Elena Danaan's intellectual property. And I think maybe the only reason why she can't is because of the fact that she once was friends with Megan Rose and they were talking about the same stuff. So it won't make any sense, and it might actually backfire on her. Like Corey Good's deposition backfired on him. He did that for the money, to make sure his intellectual property was his, that no one could use his story of 20 and Back and the Dark Fleet or whatever he copyrighted. That's what the lawsuits were about his intellectual property. So no one could go around saying the same secret space program stories. But we've already seen a new woman, I think her name is Penny, who's come out with a 20 and Back story. But it's not true. Corey Good has already said that he made that up. Today I'm going to take little short videos of Corey Good. Everything. I haven't been to space, esoteric religion, PTSD, all of it. And because people won't even watch 45 minutes, it went from 111 minutes to 45 minutes. Now there's going to be shorts. Bam, 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 bam. It's driving me crazy. But I can't take it anymore. This is what it's done to me. It took so much of my life from me. I thought it was going to be different than this. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to attack you, my allies, because I do see similarities in between us. But listen, there are fundamental points we do not agree on. And that's what it says within the elemental kingdoms. That they all want this thing, but they can't agree on how it gets done. The truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. So help us, Divine Creator. For real. Yes, everyone better start telling the truth, because I'm going to keep coming out with this over and over and over. You will never destroy me. Ever. In any way. Ever. And I'm not just speaking overconfidently. Motherfucker can try. But I don't recommend it. So, you know? Anyway, sorry I had that little bit of a rant, but I always had this feeling, okay? And I've talked about Megan Rose and Elena Danaan before, but there. Yeah. Have a good day, everybody. Take care. Bye.
He's climbing in your windows, he's snatching your people up, trying to rape them, so y'all need to hide your kids, hide your wife, hide your kids, hide your wife, hide your kids, hide your wife, and hide your husband, cause they raping everybody out here. You don't have to come and confess, we're looking for you, we gon' find you, we gon' find you, so you can run and tell that, run and tell that, run and tell that, homeboy, homeboy. We got your t-shirt and your left fingerprints and all, you are so dumb. You are really dumb, for real. You are really so dumb. I was attacked by some idiot in the project. So dumb, so dumb, so dumb, so he's climbing in your windows, he's snatching your people up, trying to rape them, so y'all need to hide your kids, hide your wife, hide your kids, hide your wife, hide your kids, hide your wife, and hide your husband, cause they raping everybody out here. You don't have to come and confess. We're looking for you. We gon' find you. We gon' find you. So you can run and tell that. Run and tell that. Run and tell that. Homeboy, homeboy. Got 5957. Coffee complexion, low cut like a Caesar, with some little waves in his head, clean cut, very smooth face. Seeing my sister when I walked in, he had his hands around her neck. First thing was to pull him off of her, and that's what I did. He's climbing in your windows, he's snatching your people up, trying to rape them, so y'all need to hide your kids, hide your wife, hide your kids, hide your wife, hide your kids, hide your wife, and hide your husband, cause they raping everybody out here. You don't have to come and confess, we're looking for you, we gon' find you, we gon' find you, so you can run and tell that, run and tell that, run and tell that, homeboy, homeboy. Well, obviously we have a rapist in Lincoln Park.
Are you serious, my boy? I get your t-shirt, I get your tee. I know what you said, you wear my puss, so you can run and hide, but we're gonna find you, find you.
He's climbing in your windows, he's snatching your people up, trying to rape them, so y'all need to hide your kids, hide your wife, hide your kids, hide your wife, hide your kids, hide your wife, and hide your husband, cause they raping everybody out here. You don't have to come and confess, we're looking for you, we gon' find you, we gon' find you, so you can run and tell that, run and tell that, run and tell that, homeboy, homeboy. He's climbing in your windows, he's snatching your people up, trying to rape them, so y'all need to hide your kids, hide your wife, hide your kids, hide your wife, hide your kids, hide your wife, and hide your husband, cause they raping everybody out here. You don't have to come and confess, we're looking for you, we gon' find you, we gon' find you, so you can run and tell that, run and tell that, run and tell that, homeboy, homeboy. I found we don't run around crying and acting sad, we just dust our shoulders off and keep on moving.